Today we're going to be talking about fixed blades.
Fly with the stars, I'm free. Party all day, every weekend. Make it boom boom to the beat. Yeah.
What's up guys? Welcome to today's video. We are talking about fixed blades, but we're also talking about which is the best fixed blade in my collection in my opinion. So starting off, we have got the Gerber Strong-arm. This is the partially serrated version, and it's also the black version. And let's just say this knife is absolutely incredible. Starting from the sheath, because that's my absolute favorite part. The one point that actually had me sold on this knife when I first started looking at it was the fact the actual sheath design was put into consideration. So when you close the knife, you look and there's a little notch that sits inside, and when you close it, it just fits perfectly. And that was something that I really understood coming from the LMF2, as this knife has had a few issues. We'll get to that in a second about the issues of the LMF. Back to the Strong-arm. This knife, probably the best fixed blade that I have in my collection. Fits in my hand really, really well. Like, it is just the best fixed blade for taking up your hand and really just gripping right in, no issues, doesn't slip. Handle, glass filled nylon. It's got this really nice, you know, cutout area. That's not for, you know, getting a pinch hold or anything. That is for the actual sheath itself, and it's on both sides because it is a ambidextrous sheath. It can go on either way, which is absolutely great. This is going to be the partially serrated version, and it is also going to be a high carbon steel. Their high carbon steel is just amazing, except for the fact that it's kind of difficult to sharpen, but it's very hard to break, and it's also very hard to lose its edge. But once it does lose that edge, it's kind of very hard to get it back. On the back here, it does have a glass breaker, and I'm pretty sure the flat edge is also going to be a hammer. But yeah, it's also got a lanyard hole. So this knife is just, it's probably one of my absolute favorites, but is it the best? I don't know. I feel like it depends what you're also wanting to do with it. I'm just gonna mention it is a really good knife, but the one downside of it is the blade. It feels, their steel kind of feels a little bit ceramic to me, with how hard it is to sharpen and maintain, but it's also very hard to dull. So it's kind of it's a really big payoff. I don't know if it is going to be the best knife that, you know, best fixed blade I have in my collection, but I feel like it would be a very, very close second if it is. And also the sheath has got a bunch of different attachments, so you can have this piece taken off with just the little tab. You got a little drop sheath that can come down there. It's got a bunch of different different ways you can have it. Going on to the next knife, I think everyone has had this knife. An interesting fact, this is the first knife I ever bought. This is the first knife that got me into knives and wanting knives and everything. And shout out to the guy at Anaconda who pretty much said, you don't want that knife, you want this knife. This is a really good cheap starting knife, and let's just say it's true. It is a really, really good cheap starting knife. And if you don't already know, that's going to be the Gerber Grylls fixed blade. I'm very mixed on these knives. This fixed blade is a very, very good beater. Like, it's got a really nice rubber textured handle. I don't like the plastic and the orange plastic, but honestly, for, you know, a $45 knife, what do you kind of expect? It's got the little hammer pommel on the back with a lanyard hole. It's got some pretty cheap, I'm pretty sure it's their high carbon steel, same as on the LMF2 and Strong-arm, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that, I'm not 100%. This is going to be the half serrated version. and it's also going to be a drop point. One thing that when I was looking at this knife was the fact that it was a survival knife. You know, when you first get into knives, you think straight away survival. Oh, survival knife. That's what knives are for, survival. But I've slowly learned that there's more to knives than just survival. So it's funny coming from this knife to Esee Izula and really noticing the difference in how they are and their purpose and everything. This has got lanyard lashing, I'm pretty sure it's called, where you can lash a stick to it and use it as a spear and stuff. And yeah, there's a bunch of different things you can do with this knife. This one, it fits alright in the hand. It's very intrusive. It kind of forces you to have this grip in particular. It doesn't let you push up on the blade at all because it's got this huge bump here in the way. The jimping on it is very harsh, and it kind of does, you know, wear down your hand if you are wearing a glove or anything after a while. So ergonomic wise, it's not the greatest. The steel is really hard to sharpen in my opinion. Something I did like that they put on the sheath was a little ceramic sharpening thing, so you know you could just give it a little run across, and if you're ever out in the wild, you can just get it sharpened. Another thing on the sheath is this really is going to be the flint. So it's got a flint and steel on it, and you strike that on the back there. It's a really good knife to first start off your knife collection, but I feel like they could have done a few things better. But as usual, that's Gerber, and they kind of went for it. I just wish it didn't have all the plastic on it, and yeah, that would have been a lot better. But this probably would be a very close third. Going on to the LMF2. Now, if you do not know the LMF range, then you do not know that military, as in US military, a lot of the US military use these knives for a very good reason. They're big, bulky, chunky, and they're just, you can't break these. If you somehow break an LMF2, you need to comment that below and tell me the story of how. What did you get it jammed in? What did you do? Did you run it over with a tank and then shoot it with a space laser or something? Because these things are pretty tough. Starting off, it's got that, I'm pretty sure it's a 450 high carbon, I'm pretty sure it is, or 440 high carbon. Same as the other blades. It's got that black Cerakote coating over it. It's partially serrated, and it does have those lanyard lashings like on the last knife. It's got pretty decent ergonomics in my opinion. I reckon they could have been a little bit better, made it a little bit thinner around the bottom of the handle here. That would have made it a little bit nicer. On the back, you do have a glass breaker, lanyard hole, and you've also got a hammering section for when it's in its sheath, because safety first, you don't want to be holding the blade. On the back there, you've got your little hammering surface, so if you ever need to hammer in a nail or something, or someone's head, that's a joke, you can do so. Again, it's going to be a glass-filled nylon handle. In my opinion, they are Gerber's best handles that they ever did on fixed blades, because they're super tough, and if somehow you're to break it, I'm again gonna ask you how. But I do know if you are batoning and you do hit this part of the handle, you will break it, because this part is a plastic with a little bit of, I think it's a little bit of rubber over the top of it. That was an issue that I had. They should have made this here a black plastic, just black straight up plastic, like they have going around underneath. Because, let's see if I can get this on camera. If you look here, you can see that the rubber has been pulled away from pulling it in and out of the sheath. It's not a big issue for me, but it was just the fact that as I was pulling it in and out of the sheath, it was just pulling on that rubber and causing issues. And for me, this was an expensive knife for me. It wasn't a $400, you know, Benchmade Adamas or something. This was a Gerber LMF2 that was, I think it was $120 when I got it. And for me, I was like, oh my god, I didn't have a job yet, so you know, that was like my life savings at the time. It was just, I was freaking out. I was like, oh my god, I just spent $120 on a knife, and it feels like it's falling apart because I just started getting into knives. And yeah, so yeah, it's a really great knife. So going from the urban survival to the rural survival, we're now going to jump into the EDC fixed blade section. If you don't know what this is going to be the Esee Izula. I do have a video on all these knives except for the LMF2 and the Gerber Grylls. So I've got a video on the Gerber Strong-arm and the Esee Izula, so make sure you guys do check out those videos. So yeah, this is the Esee Izula. Honestly, it is one of my favorite fixed blades. It is absolutely amazing. I wish they made a D2 version because personally I'm obsessed with D2. Every knife that's D2 I want. I'm like, gimme. But yeah, starting off, it's a very small knife compared to the others. I did take my paracord off of this one because I just felt like when you kind of got it in its sheath and pressed up against your skin underneath, the paracord was rubbing and causing issues. So this made it a little bit more low profile. I do want to get my cutter handles for it, so I just have that little bit more bulkiness with the handle and a little bit more grip. So another thing is this knife is super lightweight. Like, it weighs like nothing. It's got a really good balance point, and it is just, it's really good. So it's got a nice green coating on it, this one. I'm pretty sure this is a OD green coating, and then it's a drop point blade. I love the belly on this knife. It is just amazing. It's got a skeletonized handle, it's got jimping on the back, it's got, you know, your Ant logo, and then on the other side you've got the Ant logo again, and then Izula. Then it's got your O-ring at the back, or your finger ring as some people call it, and then on the other side, same thing. Yeah, so this is a very low profile knife. When you put it into your pants, it's gone, you got no issues. And the sheath that comes with it it's pretty good. It's just your basic nylon sheath. It's got your little clip on the back, which for me, this is definitely a sheath that I wanted. I didn't want a drop down sheath. I wanted a actual sheath that would sit high up on your waistband, just because I felt like it was more accessible to grab from there and to put away. The part you've all been waiting for, ranking these knives best knife to last knife. So it's gonna be a very clear order. Personally, for me, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. What is your order for these knives? Because I'm really interested to see what other people think about these knives, and if they're kind of up your alley of interest as well. Alright, starting off, my first and favorite knife is the Esee Izula. It's so lightweight, so out of the way, it's so discreet and looks so good. It's such a good knife. It's got really good steel, it's got a really nice belly on it, and you can just do so much with it. So I feel like this would be my #1 knife in my collection that is a fixed blade. Going on to number 2. This one is definitely not a shock, as I've already stated it before, the Gerber Strong-arm. As I stated before, this knife has got really good ergonomics. It's got those serrations which are very hard to dull. It's got a really good sheath, really good pommel. It is a really good knife, and I highly recommend it. Going on to number 3, we have got the LMF2. The LMF2 is an outstanding knife. I just feel like they could have done so much better with it. I feel like they could have made that handle a little bit smaller around the bottom and the top, just to fit that hand just that little bit more for people with that little smaller hand. And I feel like they could have just made it plastic at the top here. It would have made it so much easier to get it in and out of the sheath. and it would have just made life a little bit easier. That's why it's number 3, but it is still a really good knife, indestructible, and just super fun to have in your collection when you just want to, like, you know, baton some wood and just, you know, have a fire, you know, roast some marshmallows. Definitely the knife. And lastly, as you've all probably sat there predicting, the Gerber Grylls Survival Fixed Blade is gonna be the number 4 last knife. The reason that this knife is number 4 is just, it's very cheap, and it wouldn't be my first choice ever because it's just too plasticky, it's just too cheap. But it is very good for people who want to get into survival knives or just knives in general, because it's very beginner. You know, this is where you put your fingers when holding a knife. You know, you've just got all these different parts. This is definitely a knife I would recommend for beginner knife. Alright guys, so that is where we're going to wrap it up today. Thank you so much for coming out and watching this video. It was just very chill, laid back today, talking about my personal favorite fixed blades. Leave yours down in the comment. If you guys have different fixed blades, let me know what they are. I'm looking for a new fixed blade in my collection. Would love suggestions, so please put them in the comments below. And I will catch you guys next week.
Fly with the stars, I'm free. Party all day, every week.